What's up, Sisu Circle, and welcome to another episode of Who's the Baby, a podcast where me and my emotional support mug dive into everything inner child. On today's episode, I will be diving into spirituality. And I know this is a very trendy topic right now. You see it all over social media and about transformation. I just want to talk a little bit about my experience with it. I just wanted to come on here and chat for a while. It's been a minute since I've done so, and just really feeling called to do it. I have been on a little spiritual journey, as you have somewhat gathered from my podcast, dealing a lot with energy and the chakras. But really, what it comes down to is trying to find a sense of purpose, right? Trying to find our sense of humanity. Where do we come from? Why are we here? Answering all those big questions. And I'm in my upper 30s, and I'm having these conversations with myself all the time. I had those quite often, even as a child, thinking about, why am I here? What is this? What is this life? What is it? Trying to define it and explain it. And ever since, I've kind of been on this quest of science. Give me the science. Give me the information. I want facts. I want resources. I struggled a lot with faith and believing in something that I couldn't see, touch, feel. Is the journey I'm on now. Is feeling into that unknown and feeling into that space of uncertainty and leaning into those uncomfortable emotions of, I don't quite know what I'm doing. I don't quite know what's going to happen. I don't quite know what the future holds for me, but I'm here. I'm showing up anyway, and I'm going to do it the best of my abilities. And the reason why I'm so beholden to helping kids, right, teens specifically, is in their development, they are going through a lot. And I think especially now with social media and the way our life and culture is going, we are expecting a lot out of them. We're expecting them to grow up very fast. And a lot of the times developmentally, they don't have the reasons why. They don't have the answers. They don't have the science. They don't have the knowledge. They're doing everything the best they can without those answers. So we're asking them to have faith and to step into those unknown feelings and ultimately ask them to manage them appropriately as adults would. And from a developmental standpoint, that's a really big ask. And maybe this is a little bit about reparenting myself and about getting what I didn't have back then. But also, this is my story of where I'm at in my journey and kind of liking the experience now. It wasn't always easy, and especially then during my teen years, it would have been nice to have something where I heard from someone else saying, you're going to get through it, you're going to make it one way or another, and it's okay if it's messy, it's okay if it's off the beaten path, it's okay if it's not the norm, it's okay if you're going left and everyone's going right. It would have been nice to hear. And not that you need that, because that also comes from within. And that's, ultimately what I'm finding out about myself is that I've had all the answers in myself, and trusting. There's that faith, right? That faith in myself, in my inner knowing that I would get through the things, that I would be able to manage what's on the other side of some of those big feelings or some of those big situations and some of those big uncertainties. That's a lot of where my story, my work, all of it stems from. Anyway, I have just finished a book, and it honestly helped me understand the science behind spirituality, the science behind why as humans we have this longing, or we have this sense of connectivity and wanting to be a part of something and wanting to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. It really sort of helped bridge that gap of, it's not the woo woo, it's not the universe or source, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, that we as humans are chemically wired for connection, chemically wired for having those deeper feelings of connectivity and interconnectivity and being a part of something bigger than ourselves. And that ultimately is what I now see as the definition of spirituality. And everyone's definition is going to be a little bit different, and that's okay. What I'm coming to terms with and defining for myself is this notion of connection, this notion of feeling connected to something bigger than myself. And I've always had that feeling, even as a very young child, especially, particularly for me, in nature. Those feelings were able to be expressed when I was in trees. I used to love climbing trees. And now I can understand why. The tree was helping me regulate my nervous system straight up. We were connecting in a way that was helping me regulate myself. And bugs, I used to be really into bugs. Like seeing something so small be a part of something so big was genuinely curious to me. And little tiny frogs, we used to have a little pond by my house, and I used to ride my bike down to the pond, and there were these tiny, teeny, tiny little frogs. And I just loved them. I would just like scoop them up and hold them and play with them and talk to them, and then, set them down and let them be on their way. And I just remember being like, you are so little in this tiny little pond. And here I am being able to experience your experiencing. And who am I to be like this one who is having this experience? And furthermore, being like, do you live or do you die? Because sometimes I was little, I didn't know like quite what I was doing. I put them in my pocket, ride my bike home, and expect them to be alive on the way back. That's not okay. And that little bit of moment, like playing God a little bit for this tiny little frog. So that does bring up some questions and curiosities. The book that I read is called The Awakened Brain by Dr. Lisa Miller. It goes into wonderful detail about how her story and how she came to terms with defining spirituality and kind of understanding the science behind it. Her area of study when she first began this journey was to research resilience in children, and stumbled through her own path and ended up creating a new category within psychology around spirituality. I mean, psychology, it was very science driven, it was very factual. Now, trying to introduce the science of spirituality and how it functions in your brain and how we can measure that was difficult. She was a pioneer in that. But then it also went into her personal journey and went into, things that you can't really explain, but the synchronicities and laws of attraction that you can't really explain, the woo-woo or the manifestation. For anyone who is interested or is a little bit of a nerd, please check it out. It's called The Awakened Brain, and it is the science of spirituality. We have actual brain imaging and evidence as to how humans are wired for spirituality. It's a great book. I find a lot of similarities in what I'm trying to do, build resiliency in children and build this sort of sense of identity and authenticity. And on my own journey, I've kind of stumbled into my own journey with spirituality. And those two things generally go hand in hand. And in the book, she kind of explains why those two things are so attached to one another. And basically what she says, and I'm totally paraphrasing here, is on one end of the spectrum is depression. And on the other end of the spectrum is spirituality. And when you have a stronger sense of spirituality, the less likely an individual, especially a child, is to become depressed. We can now detect the severity of the depression that individual will experience. And particularly between the ages of 12 and 18. So those are the developmental years of a child that they will either go down the path of reinforcing their own sense of spirituality or not. And then within those years, between the science and imaging, we can actually tell how likely this person is to struggle with depression. For me, that is insanely interesting on so many levels. You might have your doubts and say, well, what did they put it up against, or how did they measure this, and how did they know? In the book, it explains all of the reasons why she was like, this can't be it, right? This can't be it. So let's test for literally every other thing it could correlate to. And the research generally proved everyone wrong. It's a fantastic read if you're at all curious. Anywhere you buy books, The Awakened Brain by Dr. Lisa Miller. I am just very happy to share. I just feel very compelled to just share my story and journey because it is very similar, and that the more that I research my own resiliency and my own authenticity, the more information I find regarding spirituality. So there definitely is a link, and it's very interesting to me, and it's not a journey that I would ever even imagine myself to be on, to be quite honest. There was a point in my life, I would probably say more than half my life now, that I was an atheist, completely atheist. Like, we are science, this is what it is, this is our experience, this is what we do here, and then that's it. And now I have completely changed my mind and my beliefs on that, and I am by no means done in finding out or researching that. And I'm really happy with the journey that this has brought me on, and being able to question my beliefs and being able to question where I'm at and say, why is it that I believe that? Or why is it that I think that? And talk to myself essentially and have these inner conversations about my own beliefs, my own being, coming into new ways of thinking. And honestly, as a human, what more could we ask? Quite honestly, I think learning and committing to never stop learning is really what makes this human experience so incredible and so amazing. The fact that you can evolve yourself with a choice, with a decision, with habits, it's truly amazing. I'm just really happy to be here and be experiencing it and to be sharing my experience so that I can feel connected to something bigger than myself. And it doesn't even thrill me that this has to be on the internet or that I have to potential to reach people all across the globe. Like, that's not even it or why I do it. It really is my definition of spirituality, my definition of growth, genuinely wanting to feel this connection to something bigger than myself. I have a strong need for that, and I don't think I'm alone in that, especially right now, especially living in the United States right now in 2025, where we are. For my little corner of the world, this is how I do that and how I share my experience. I would love to hear anyone's feedback. I would love to see if anyone has read that book, has any information to share. I can go into more depth with it. I do need to get myself a copy because I did audio book it. She has written more books. There is one, I believe it's called The Awakened Child, that I'm going to read next. But yes, it's just fascinating to me, this whole idea of reality, of our human experience, of consciousness, of our existence. Are we in the matrix? Are there layers, and are they waves, or are they beams and atoms and photons? I really love learning about what we are calling this human experience. And I'm so lucky and I'm so happy that I am able to do some research and share even my feelings, hoping that this reaches someone maybe that it needs to, or just to spark a little bit of interest or curiosity or joy or whatever. Very happy to be here doing this. So if you're still here, from me and my emotional support bug, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you on the other side. Cheers.